going to speak in English, so I don't embarrass myself in Spanish. First, I'd just like to agree with everything that I've heard here is really wonderful. Casa del Cine this is a wonderful, I'm totally delighted and honored to support anything that does what Casa del Cine does for the programs that they're doing, the workshops for actors, filmmakers. This is an incredible opportunity for young people and people who might not otherwise have an opportunity to access an education in cinema. Also to be able to access film and to see films, Mexican films, important Mexican films and other films from around the world, and to be able to have access to these films that they might not normally be able to. I came here because Carlos and I have been friends for several years now, and I'm here. I want to support this because Carlos and I have been working on a project, but I'm here also to honor a great artist, a great Mexican artist who was born in Cuba. His name was Francisco Feole, and he passed away on Saturday, but this is an artist who I had the pleasure of spending time with over 10 years ago while he was making the record. And he was such an important artist, and and I've had it's been really quite a profound experience for me to be here to talk to the people that worked with him over the last 40. I think he came in 1955 to Mexico, and this is the place he called home. He was an important artist, and I had the opportunity to film him and work with him here in Mexico several years ago. And unfortunately, he passed away, but he had a good life. And this was a man who had a profound impact on me. But he was an artist who gave so much of himself and influenced so many young Mexican musicians, as well as Cuban musicians, and people from around the world. And so this is actually a good opportunity for me to honor him and say something while there are people who might not know who he was, that this was a great artist. And that's one of the reasons I'm here. God, that's it. Many years ago. Muchos años atrás. But Mexico City is an incredible city. And I commend very much Dr. Toscano for the work that she's doing, taking buildings like this and giving it use, instead of allowing it to go derelict or allowing developers to tear these buildings down. I think it's really important. And I think one of the things that's beautiful is Mexico has such an incredible cinematic history. So I've watched a lot of old Mexican films recently, and you see how beautiful Mexico City was. And that it's frightening that sometimes it's like my city, New York. If you don't protect these places, they'll be torn down or fall into disrepair, and eventually it won't happen anymore. So I think I commend you for that. But I'm sure I want to work with that I don't even know yet, not to mention the ones who have made already good films. I have worked in the only time I've ever worked really in documentary work has been here in Mexico City, and it's a really rich place. But what I think I've got is I've done some interviews and done some filming here, is that the passion of people working in the Mexican film industry is so impressive. I must say, it's so impressive to work with Mexicans, working with Carlos and Christina and people like that. Even though we're just doing it at this point, just shooting documentary stuff. It's not narrative, but I would love to work in Mexico City anytime, work with some of my fellow actors. Class. Carlos at the time was with Jorge Sanchez, were I guess running the Guadalajara Film Festival, and they asked me to do a master class, and I said, well, what is that master class? I'm not a professor, I'm an actor. So no, just talk about your work, and it was really beautiful. It was great to be able to be on stage and talk to actors just about what I've been doing for most of my life, And if I was able to help anybody, great, you know. But for me, it was nice to be able to do it. It's a good festival. Próximo pregunta. For awards, it's an enjoyable thing, but I don't think it's why we make films, right? I don't think we as actors make films for the glory of it, you know? We do it because it's what we do. If you're a real artist, that's what you do. You act because you really don't have a choice, or you create because that, and I think that's important for me. So, you know, I think it's great. That stuff is a lot of fun to go to awards, but you know, it's not where the real joy lies. The real joy lies in the process of the work. And in this current time, I've been sort of exploring right now the life of this artist, Fayobe, here in Mexico, and that's been really rewarding for me because he is an artist with a process, and he didn't have much of a choice. That's what he did. He created because that's what he did. And he did amazing things, you know, but it wasn't ultimately something that he desperately wanted to do. It was just something that possessed him, you know. And that's my, yeah. Answer your question about my, Fayobe was I loved his music because I was introduced to him because of my love of African music, and I then introduced him to a musician friend of mine who said, hey, guess what? He's living in Mexico City and he's great, you know, and I'm going to make a record with him. And so it was a last minute thing. I came down and I just was filming him and talking to him while I was making his record. And he was a remarkable, innovative, spontaneous artist who came from a time when that is what artists were doing. He came out of the 40s and 50s when you know, artists were you know, in acting class. I mean, that's when we learned from the great actors and Brando and Montgomery Clift and these people. Spontaneity, vulnerability, he's sort of working from the inside out. And this was an artist who was a performer, but he really worked from the inside out. And he created his own sort of style of singing, scat singing, which, you know, he was an innovator in that way, as a dancer, as a performer, and always looking forward. And I found him to be fascinating. And I was, you know, and time went by, you know, but he was always thinking forward. And I was fortunate enough to have been around him then, and now coming back and talking to the people who worked closely with him is really a revelation. He's the guy who taught so many people, helped so many people, and I think it's a very interesting. I think Mexico is a really fascinating place. I think in the 40s and 50s, at that time, there was no place like Mexico. It was the center of everything: art, music, literature. You know, and everybody was coming here from everywhere. From other parts of Latin America, from the United States, because of the great artists that were here and what was happening. So it's really interesting.